Welcome to this meeting of the Russell Cotes Art Gallery and Museum Management Committee. I'm Councillor Lawrence Williams, Vice Chair. Item 1 is apologies. Clerk, are there any?
Yes, we've received apologies from Sir George Merrick.
Thank you. And item 2 is the election of a chair, which is why I'm here. I'd like to seek a nomination for the election of chair. Is there...
Mr. Bartholomew, Professor Bartholomew, I apologise.
Thank you. And I'd like to second that, if I may. As there's no more nominations, I'll take that as read unless anybody says otherwise. Okay, so over to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Lawrence, and thank you very much, colleagues. The second item, of course, is the election of the Vice Chair, and if I am able, as I believe I am, Rebecca, I'd like to nominate Lawrence Williams as Vice Chair of the committee. Seconded from Fiona Winrow, and we are in agreement. Which case, congratulations, Lawrence, and thank you very much. We are now to move to the standard item of any declaration of interest which might impact on the agenda. Members of the RSPB may have an interest in later item. Are there any public issues which have been notified to us, Rebecca, in advance of the meeting?
Chair.
Thank you very much. Which allows us to move to the key item, item 6, which is the museum report. And I do invite you, Sarah, to present the report.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So I was just going to pick out some highlights as usual for you. I've kind of concentrated on the 6-month period just to line it up with the financial year to make reporting easier. So just to say, the visitor figures at the end of this period were pretty well comparable with previous years, so about 50,000. Which is, yes, comparable with previous years, so we're quite happy with that, given the times are quite, different museums having a different experience, but generally it's obviously quite difficult times, so we've done quite well to maintain our visitor numbers. Overall in that period, obviously visitor income did go up marginally, 4%, about inflation, isn't it? But the cafe and the shop did particularly well, whereas admissions income was lower than anticipated. We'll come on to that. And what's happened this year? So this year, from the 1st of April, with everyone's agreement here, we increased the price of admission for an adult ticket from £9.50 to £12.50. Which is quite a significant increase. And really pleased to say that after 7 weeks, we've seen significant increased income and increased visitors, in fact. So it hasn't had a negative impact at all. And we're checking on what they call the rebound rate, the number of people who rock up on the front door and say, I'm not going to pay that. And it's virtually zero. So we still are pretty competitively priced for the quality of the offer. So at the moment, I think we're 26% up on income generally over the first sort of 7 weeks of the financial year. So as long as that continues, it's pretty good. The Flower Fairy exhibition is proving to be very popular. Just picking out some other things as we go through. So just to be aware of the picture store too in the modern wing. So this is the picture store that is where the television is on that kind of level. So behind the TV screen where the visitors watch the introductory video is a picture store, and we've discovered mould in there. So we had to decant hundreds of paintings out of that in January, clean the mould off, and then building services painted the back walls. Obviously, you're built into the side of the cliff, so they painted the back walls to try and stop water ingress, but it hasn't worked. So essentially a bigger kind of solution will have to be found at some point, but I don't suppose that's going to happen soon. then I was just going to pick up on the fact that we have applied for designation for the founding art collection. So this is the scheme run by the Arts Council, whereby collections of national significance and international significance can be designated, and that allows you to apply for additional funding and obviously gives you a certain amount of status. So we have applied for our founding art collection. That's the paintings and sculpture collection that was donated by Annie and Merton, also Cotes. It's a two-stage process, and we wait to hear, essentially. So I don't know what the response will be on that. Conservatory was redisplayed. So if anyone's been in there recently, we've moved some of the busts from the sculpture terrace into the conservatory to kind of fill out the display there, and partly because the sculpture terrace will have to be completely cleared for the Mend 4 work when that's done. So sort of to try and ready ourselves for that. Artists as Witness exhibition is finished. That went very well. We've moved from the sublime to the ridiculous, so we've gone from Artists as Witness to flower fairies, but we all need a bit of fairy magic sometimes, so that seems to have gone very well. We've put an additional 5k into marketing that, and we've got a really good deal with Bournemouth Echo, but we also will have lamppost signs, train advertising, and a billboard in Christchurch. So we'll see if that brings in additional visitors. Certainly seems to do so far. We're looking at the moment of moving to the moment we have a 2 exhibitions a year arrangement where we do 2 6-monthly exhibitions, and we're now looking from about 2028 to doing 3 exhibitions a year. So we are thinking about having a contemporary art exhibition during the winter period. So there would be a kind of an accessible exhibition in the summer, a sort of more kind of art history focused exhibition in the spring, and then in the autumn winter we would work with Parker Harris, which is a sort of art dealer PR company, and they would run competitions, and we would have an exhibition in the galleries which would be more contemporary, trying to bring in a sort of more younger audiences. So we'll see. We're just in negotiation on that. I think the only other thing I was going to say was we've done quite with the tempera exhibition, which is a big deal for us, coming up, this amazing exhibition on our tempera collection. We have commissioned a PR company in London to help us with PR. They're feel quite confident that this could reach nationals, radio and television audiences. So we're hopeful that might bring in a lot of interest in that exhibition when that opens sort of this time next year. And a couple of things. Other things was I did for Mend 4, for Mend 1. So that was the repair of the conservatory and particularly the plant. I was asked by Arts Council to supply quite a lot of information on our energy use for some research projects that they did, and the Arts Council commissioned an organisation called Figurative to look at funding net zero, whether you could bring in additional alternative funds to support the retrofitting to reach net zero. And I was asked to be a case study for this, and I did a presentation at the Museums and Heritage show a couple of weeks ago. And they've asked us to go and do another presentation for the launch of the Arts Council launch of the report in a couple of weeks' time in the Royal Society of Art. So we will do that. So it's quite useful. Not only just to present on the challenges of reaching net zero, but also looking at alternative models for getting investment, looking at kind of using philanthropy to drive commercial investment. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. And finally, the Arts Council have just announced the latest grant, which is a Museum Transformation Award, and this is to support financial sustainability in museums which are local authority or were local authority. So I think we're in a great place for that. So I'm looking very much to put an application into that. Unfortunately, the deadline is the 30th of September, which might coincide almost exactly with other deadline. So it's going to be an interesting few months. But this will be looking at, making us much more using digital, much more commercial and entrepreneurial. So it's right up, it's absolutely the perfect time for what we're doing. Thank you.
Are there any questions that colleagues have? Andy? Councillor Martin, I beg
Oh,
your
no,
pardon.
no, no, none of that formality. Thank you, Chair. Just two things really, Sarah. One might seem a bit sort of prosaic, but knowing how important the hospitality sort of catering offering is in museums, and noting that you said that the cafes performed particularly well, is that sort of particularly well over previous years? And if that is the case, why? What's been happening? Is it the sausage rolls or the cake or what?
So the income has done particularly well. Profitability not so much. We've struggled to make it profitable, but they've certainly increased turnover. This year was particularly good, I think, because we had the terrace back, or when I say last year, I should say, was the terrace was back, whereas the previous year, because of the MEND project, the terrace was under scaffolding. They've got better at doing higher cost items. So we are doing like jack potatoes and those kind of things. But the challenge is still about making, I mean, it is quite difficult within museums to turn a really good profit. So the challenge this year is about trying to control costs, and it's really around staffing costs, very high, obviously, pensions and so on within the council arrangements. So this year the challenge is they've actually, the income from in the cafe is already in better this year than last, and that might reflect increase in prices and also slightly increased visitor numbers. But the challenge this year for them is to really control those costs, particularly the staffing costs. So they're looking at a slightly different model to see if we can turn that into a small profit rather than a small loss, which is what's happened. But certainly, turnover certainly increased significantly because of those things.
Thank you. And my second thing was my ears pricked up when you talked about a London PR company, knowing how much they charge for things. So was that? And forgive me, I might have just missed a bit, but was that just for a particular exhibition?
Yes.
Rather than as a longer term contract thing.
That's right. So we've just, because we've this is the Tempera exhibition,
yeah.
Which obviously we've attracted grants from Western Loan, Paul Mellon, and Scott Finnis. I think it is. We've attracted something like, what's that, about £50,000 worth of funding for that. It's a very significant exhibition highlighting the role that Norma Sylvester, who's the curator at Russell Cotes, had as a regional curator to promote tempera painting nationally, and really interesting, sort of brings in surrealists and all sorts. So it's a really interesting exhibition. And for having invested so much in it, it was a shame not to use a PR company. And it's a day rate. I mean, it's a few days' work.
Okay.
This person is very well regarded. So I think it's worth, for a few, it's like £2,000, I think. She'll work for us for a year till the exhibition's open, to bring in, hopefully, to drive. And then one part of it will be a press day, so she will bring a group of journalists down to Bournemouth this time next year to see the show. So we've never done this before. And if it's good, then maybe that's something to do longer, sort of a broader remit. But at the moment, we're just focusing to see how it works for this particular exhibition.
I think that sounds well worth trying. So thank you.
Any other questions? Alan and then Lawrence.
Could I just refer to item 7, which is the break-in, and just ask Sarah just to talk generally about security of the site, which I think on occasions has been an issue. And in particular, when I think about last weekend and the large number of visitors to the town, whether that poses extra issues in terms of security.
Thank you, Alan. Yes, I mean, the site is very open. There is very little that can be done to secure the site because of just the nature of it and so on. So it is a problem. That was break-in was just into the shed, and there was nothing too much done. Obviously, we do have concerns around the issues when it's so busy and so on. I mean, particularly I was away, but some of it. But the other day, coming out at 5 o'clock, the parking was were parked entirely across the front of the museum along Russell Cotes Road. So if a fire engine or an ambulance had to get through, well, they wouldn't have been able to. So that's something I was going to report. So this is a problem, and obviously, well, with the issues that we have around antisocial behaviour and so on, that does obviously impact on visitors and so on. So we are part of that. We are part of that kind of whole economy, and we are trying to do as much as we can to kind of to make a positive difference and encourage people to. But it is an issue that we have. So I think something has happened recently, and I've forgotten what it is, which is not in this report. We've had a lady who has come into were you there, Fiona? Lady who came into the museum, who's obviously has mental health issues, and sort of stands and screams in the garden. And she threw a rock through one of the windows in the vestibule the other day. So I think that's still just boarded up. So it's not within this, just in the last couple of weeks. So these issues are issues that are of concern to us. And obviously, not well. It's probably it's not huge numbers of staff on site, so it obviously is a concern to ensure that the safety of staff, collections, and visitors.
Lawrence.
Actually, before I go on to what I was going to say, which was related to the PR company, you could contact parking services. You're in a towaway zone.
Yes.
And you should get these cars towed away. We need to get enforcement. I was going to just reassure myself, really, that the cost of the PR is covered by the grant, is it? And doesn't come out to your budget?
Well, I have a £20,000 publicity, advertising, marketing budget. So we will take it out of the kind of standard budget. We decided that for this exhibition, we would allocate some of our budget to promoting this exhibition. So it comes out of that.
Very wise, thank you.
Okay.
If I may, Sarah and Fiona, I was speaking with volunteers who were doing the garden the other week. The work they do is extraordinarily good. And I don't know how one commends more than one commends. I think that without the volunteers who give freely of their time, both as lieutenants within the building as well as those who are working outside, it would be a much leaner and less satisfactory operation. So I wouldn't like to think that they're not acknowledged, and to do it formally here is appropriate. With regard, if I may finish with this item, the security, we know the vulnerabilities in this part of the Bournemouth area. I think there has been some representation to the local police force of the need for perhaps a keener eye on certain areas. And it isn't just a summer thing. Actually, I feel more for our staff and our visitors in the dark months. The actual access, whether one is going down the drive or up the drive, is not very well lit and very exposed. And I think really it's a matter that should be given a bit more thought as to how we make the building more, giving it a better feeling of safety. Fiona.
If that's right. I'm particularly worried about the lamppost outside the entrance because when I've left there in the winter months when it's been dark, it hasn't been working, and it's a bit unreliable. I don't know whether it's still blinking, but that light is pretty essential, not only for people leaving Russell Cotes, but also visitors going up and down the cliff path.
Yeah, well, I think it's a matter we'll pursue outside the meeting. Thank you. With your permission, let's move to item 7.
I've got the recommendation
Oh.
note on
report. Just to
Yes.
agree with the report.
Thank you. We are invited to agree the manager's report. Are we in agreement? We are. In which case we can move to item 7, which is the report on the repair and renewal 2, the Mend Fund project, which is actually in its 4th round. This is a very, very important initiative for the museum. Having had responsibility in another capacity for buildings, one is always rather disappointed when you spend very large sums on things that the public don't see, but they do experience the benefit nonetheless. But perhaps, Sarah, you might say, give us a little update on any progress. I know some of the ceilings have been removed and various things are happening, but how far have we got to go?
Yeah, thanks ever so much. Yes, it's been quite a slow start. I think it's quite a complicated building. No one really knows much about the construction, and so they've spent quite a lot of time trying to understand that to de-risk the project. So, as Stuart said, if you come to the offices, and do come, in the front offices, all the ceilings pretty well have been removed to expose the beams, so they can understand the structure of the underside of the veranda and the level of corrosion and so on to the beams. So the major issue we have with the building is, as you look at it, you will see that what we call the sculpture terrace, the 2 exterior terraces, one of them's is glazed and one of them is open, and they have got mosaic floors and they are not waterproof. So the water is coming through those floors into the offices below. And it looks, now they've opened up all the ceilings, you can see that 25 years ago when they did the lottery project, they probably looked at it and went, oh dear, and then just kind of put some concrete up and closed it all up again. And now, of course, we're looking at it and working out how absolutely we got to deal with it. So it's a question of really how, what that structure is and how rusty it is, and whether it can just be done with sort of repairs at the end of the beams, or whether they'll need to put new beams in between. So there's a lot of work that has been going on. The conservation officer is coming in tomorrow with the structural engineer to look at it and start working on just making the decision as to what we do. And it might be that we have to go back for more planning permission if it's significantly different to what we've asked. But we're trying to de-risk that. They were thinking about doing another round of opening up works as well, but I think they're not going to, because otherwise it just takes so long, and we are still got this very specific time frame to deliver this in. But that work has been done. So we're living where it's pretty grim. So all of us in this front offices are sort of sitting there with dust kind of just gently twinkling down on us, and that. But the idea is that we'll get to rebirth stage 5 by the end of June. They'll go out to tender in the autumn, and work will start in January. So in January, we'll probably all have to clear out of those offices completely, possibly over to the study centre and move into different places. Quite how we're going to do it, but that's where we are at the moment. So that is moving forward. It's been, as I said, a bit slow, but that's started, and fairly confident. Talking about security, one of the elements is the CCTV. So we're going to completely replace the CCTV. And actually, we've got interviews, the tenders are in, and we've got interviews, I think, on Thursday. So we're hoping that work will start before, that will be done separately to the main works. Actually, later on, as part of this project, but not here yet, there will be some security improvements, things like planting and so on. We're going to look at how we can do that. So it's timely that you've mentioned that. That is in there. One thing that's been also quite interesting is looking at fire protection. So at the moment, if heaven forbid a fire was in the Russell Cotes, there is no what they call compartmentalisation. So if fire started at one end of the Russell Cotes, it would go within minutes right through to the entire and the whole thing, affect the whole thing. So what we're trying to do is put in some compartmentalisation, so you would at least protect certain elements of it. And what they had hoped is to try and put some kind of compartment at the end of the house before the galleries. So you think of where the end of the house is, and then you go down the steps into the galleries. That's a natural place to put a compartment, but you would cause too much damage to the fabric. It wouldn't get through the, wouldn't be what we'd want to do, and the conservation officers wouldn't accept it. So we are proposing in Gallery 2, between Gallery 1 and Gallery 2, there's a big archway, and essentially they will sort of just deconstruct it and put fire doors into the walls, and then if the fire alarm goes off, it will close down. So at least galleries 2, 3 and 4 would be protected from the house and so on. So that's kind of where we are at the moment. It's not, they're just working that up, but that's where we are looking at the moment. It's not an easy place to compartmentalise. When they built the house, there were lots of doors in all sorts of places. You could, you think, Fiona will know, these tiny little spaces with 3 doors, and obviously they took them all out to aid flow. But obviously, then obviously it's a problem when you've got fire and you want to kind of. So anyway, trying to do some happy medium to try and just improve things without kind of becoming a problem. And I think that is the report on that. That's kind of where we are at the moment.
Are there any questions that people wish to ask of Sarah? In which case, are we happy to accept the report as published? We are. Thank you very much. And now, those of you who've been waiting in anticipation, we're able to move to the item which is concerned with acquisitions, loans and disposals. I, together with other colleagues here, are keen to learn, Sarah, what was on the luncheon menu for the 30th of March, 1916?
I have to say, I have no idea. Yeah, quite. I don't know. I'll have to check that out for you.
I should have given notice.
Yes.
I think the first acquisition item is rather interesting, previously owned by Brian Sewell. I haven't seen these items. Are they
Yeah.
attractive?
Yeah, well, yes, they are quite interesting. Bronze Bowl is quite extraordinary. So we've borrowed. I have to say, it came in early. Yeah, so we obviously take in relatively little, and we have a huge arguments, discussions, I should say, between the collection team as to what we should and shouldn't. We're very cautious, I think, about taking things in and why we are. So that is quite interesting. And in fact, some other things have come from this same anonymous, which are also extremely interesting, which will come through at a later meeting. So a few, I mean, these are really relatively small items that have come in, and this luncheon menu, these things pop up on eBay or whatever, all add to our kind of our understanding of the collection. And actually, what I was going to share with you on that subject is that we've just taken in from Peter Stebbing's daughter a huge archive of 3 or 4 boxes of material that belonged to the Russell Cotes family. So Peter Stebbing was the great-grandson of Merton and Annie Russell Cotes, and he passed away just recently, and his daughter has obviously decided that she there's family material that's not of interest to them, and they were handed over to the museum. So we have got amazing, it was the most exciting day, Russell Cotes for a long time, went to visit, and they've got photographs of the Russell Cotes, the museum, in the 1920s, of rooms that we have never ever seen images before. So for example, the morning room, which was destroyed in the partially destroyed in the Second World War. We have got images of what it looked like in 1920. Letters from Merton to his granddaughter after the death of Annie, saying how much he missed her granny, all sorts of amazing things. So it is an absolute treasure trove of archive which we have got. So we are extremely pleased to get that. It's going to be a job to obviously we've got to accession it all, photographs, letters, plans. Merton's files explaining where his money came from and where his investments were. So it really, really is extraordinary. And what's so wonderful, I think, will be that what we're hoping for, isn't it, is that we will go for a capital project, the lottery, to refurbish the museum. And here we have got this archive, which actually allows us to tell different stories and to really understand how the museum was and how they ran it. So it will be a really great opportunity to a reason to kind of retell those stories and to redisplay the museum. So that's just literally come in the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's very, very good news, and I can see how that can be used very effectively.
So I was just going to show you the loans are just there, and the only thing I would say is that we are loaning 1A Holland Park, which is an Almatada painting, to Madrid, and I will aim to go to that private view. I'll use it as an excuse for a holiday. It's always good to go to these massive exhibitions on Pre-Raphaelites internationally because you meet all the curators and the lenders. So that's very exciting that's going. The Almatada is a lovely, lovely painting, and that's going out to Madrid in the autumn. And actually, it's interesting that I must go and visit this one, the McBride and the two Roberts, Robert McBride and Robert Colquhoun. That's a fantastic exhibition, and that's up at Nottingham Castle. It's really worth going to. And then your favourite item, the disposal.
Hang on a second.
Sorry.
Let's take a question from you, Alan.
I just want to satisfy your curiosity, Chairman. I found online the menu, and it started with lobster and then stewed oxtail, roast leg of mutton. It then had lots of cold table, but it finished with rice pudding.
Oh,
How would you have moved after? Goodness.
I mean, the cold table has got sort of 10 items, including pigeon pie and ox tongue. So it was very lavish.
Very lavish. Oh dear.
Good for the vegetarian.
Yes, no vegan opportunities there. Okay, we now do come to the disposals, and for those who are keen bird watchers, we have extraordinary sort of collection. One wonders how we got them in the first place, but I after you, Sarah, please just reassure us that these will go to an appropriate location.
Well, maybe they will. The taxidermy is. We only keep taxidermy, natural history, where it's overseas, it's international collections, which we know Annie was particularly interested in. So when she went to New Zealand, got the kiwi and so on. These are domestic species. There's no scientific data that accompanies them, which would make them of use to scientists. We're never going to display them, so we are happy. They are quite large. Some of them very large, and we're very happy to move them on. And also, many of them contain toxic substances, which you don't particularly want either. So we will offer them to other collections, but possibly because of the lack of scientific data, they may well not be particularly interested. But that is the process that we follow.
And is there a sort of, when you offer them, how do you actually offer them?
So there's a website. There's the Museum Association website where Duncan will post that up on the website, and then people can write in. There's another lot coming through, and I think there was one item, some eagles, which I think Edinburgh were particularly interested in. If they want them, they have to then arrange for collection, which is also another problem because obviously these are large and difficult objects to carry around.
Sarah, do you ever think to go to the Natural Science Museum in Boscombe?
They are our first port of call. So we do, and sometimes the last I think round we had some paintings, and they certainly have taken one or two of those. So anything that has so if they had a Bournemouth or a Dorset location, then they would obviously be very interested. But because they're not necessarily interested. But absolutely, we would first of all contact if there's any data that we would contact the appropriate museum. And BNSS would be absolutely up there.
Are we in a position to approve the disposals as set out in the paper? Agreed. That allows us to move to item 9, which is update on progress to independence. We've had a very busy couple of weeks, and I'm very glad that Matt Filmer was able to confirm that the authority will honour the original agreement to support the independence of the Russell Cotes Museum and Gallery. We are at a point where we have seen the order which will be laid in Parliament pretty well in draft. In fact, Sarah has it in her hand, to the extent that we have been asked at what time of the day we would wish independence to be enacted. So the ambition is that that will be transacted by or on the 1st of October, but on the 1st of November is the default position, as I understand it. There is a great deal to be done between now and then, most notably the point that one of our members, Alan Frost, raised with Matt. We have not been able to enter any formal discussion with staff at the Museum and Gallery about pension arrangements, because it has not been clear that this transaction or the award of independence would take place. We are now absolutely clear of that, and so we have commissioned consultants who will both advise and assist us in the process of transfer of staff from the employment of BCP to the employment of the Russell Cotes Museum and Gallery. Sarah, are there matters you would wish to add?
Yeah, well, just a little bit, just filling in a little bit what you said. That's this is the draft scheme. So I have got this. I think this is draft 7, and we are literally at the point of these tiny little details. Unfortunately, both our lawyer and Charity Commission, my Charity Commission contact, just been away. It's been holidays, hasn't it? So a lot of people away. So I think I'm hoping that any days now we will get this coming into its day that we're going to come into force. Yes, the time, they've asked the time, but which day it's going to come into force. So it's the 1st of October, hopefully, or maybe the 1st of November. But they say that this to lay this before Parliament on the 1st of September is realistic. And I'm pleased to see that it says the charities, Russell Cotes Art Gallery Museum, order 2026. So it has to be this year. So that's probably the first time I've ever seen that. so anyway, yes, it's unfortunately what they've done. I mean, it's been a battle, isn't it? But the DCMS, the idea originally was it was going to be a very light touch scheme, but in the end, the DCMS have decided then to go through it in absolute detail. So I was looking back at leases from 1915 and all sorts of things. But anyway, I think we are almost there with that. As Stuart, the chair, said, there are various things that are really quite time consuming. So the other thing that really concerns me is ICT. So we are now, it's going to take several months to get that all, a whole new system set up and all the data transferred and so on. So this is why it's really critical that we've got this agreement now, and we can really start working that through. So it's full speed ahead really, and there's quite a lot to get us ready for that to do before we get to reach the 1st of October.
Are there any questions for, thank you. Yes, please.
Am I allowed to ask?
Oh, of course you are.
I'm particularly interested in the parliamentary scheme because, of course, it amends Section 51 of the Bournemouth Borough Council Act, which I was responsible for steering through Parliament 40 years ago. Do I understand from Sarah that the redrafted scheme is now available for inspection? No, because presumably, because the programme is very tight, that scheme has to be agreed by the council as well as by this committee. So what will be the machinery whereby the council itself agrees to the scheme?
Sarah,
My understanding from our lawyers is that the scheme, when it's almost there, will come back to this committee as a delegated committee from cabinet, and for them to agree it. So, I mean, it might be that we'll have to reconvene. Maybe it might be in a matter of weeks if this is finalised. Hopefully, very, very soon. So that will come back to this committee.
yes, and I believe that acting on behalf of the council is its solicitor. So there is a conversation between the solicitor for the council and the charity commissioners, but then subsequent to their agreement, it will be delegated to this committee to approve the scheme.
Thank you, thank you. Will the public have a chance to see the scheme or not?
I don't have, they said that we don't have to go out to public notice again, because the first scheme went out to public notice. There were no objections to it. This scheme is just, they've redrafted it in slightly different language because it's primary legislation and they didn't like the legal style that was done before, so they've redone it. But essentially it is the same, just slightly drafted. So they're saying it doesn't have to go to public notice. So but presumably, I don't know how available they make it, but I'm sure we can make it available to you.
Very nice, yes, to see it, yes.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
With your permission, are we in agreement that we note the progress on the scheme and its anticipated conclusion? The request for an update from the chief executive, we have had an update from the chief executive. So I think the matters that you raise in paragraph 13 of the report are now resolved, in as much as the chief executive, in the conversation with me and in the email which confirmed that conversation, the authority will support the operating costs of the museum and gallery to the point of incorporation, which, as we know, we hope will be the 1st of October, but at worst, 1st of November. Thank you very much. I look to you to invite any other matters. If there are none, I think I'm in a position to close the meeting and for you, Rebecca, to confirm that public access is now concluded.